have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
All right. Wow. That was a game of NBA basketball tonight at Target Center. We got Judd Zulgad, the sports dad, in the house at Target Center. Phil Mackey here in a hotel room in beautiful Toronto, Canada, for an industry summit or conference the next couple days. So I'll be on the road for the first couple games here. We'll be doing these post-game shows, Flagrant Howls. That's about as disappointing and ugly and in some cases, I guess, inexplicable of a loss as you're going to find. So we will break it down here. We'll give you guys the therapy session on Flagrant Howls here. A shout-out to our friends at Brixworth in the North Loop. If you have not checked out Brixworth, Timberwolves fans, you are missing out on a great pregame experience. Come drink and eat with your Wolves-loving friends, Flagrant Howls listening and viewing friends. Enjoy that signature Nas Reed Hazy IPA, some of the best dry rub wings and Detroit-style pizza in town. Just a couple blocks away from Target Center, Brixworth has become one of my favorite places in the North Loop. It's actually like we moved back from the West Coast to Minneapolis a couple years ago. Brixworth was like one of the first places we went right when we got back. So it's near and dear to our hearts, the Mackeys. And for Timberwolves fans, check it out, Brixworth in the North Loop. And I'm sure they'll be more positive. I don't think they're going to get swept. I don't think that's going to happen. So positive Phil will step in here. But Brixworth, check them out in the North Loop. All right, Judd, let's go through just right away your main takeaway from an ugly Game 1 loss to the Steph Curry-less Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more disappointing in part because you did get that. I mean, Steph Curry goes out in the second quarter with a hamstring, which, by the way, could affect him for the rest of the series, no question about it. Like, he might miss Game 2, Game 3, I don't know. But, yeah, that was, I mean, where do you start? The Wolves, the last two games, 3-point shooting, 7 of 47 in the game in Game 5, which they won, by the way, against the Lakers. And then tonight, what was it? It was 5 of 29. Ant had, Ant finally in the second half started to drive to the rim a little bit, but he had 1 point, I believe, in the first half. It was just, overall, it was, as Jim Pollard once said of the Twins in about 2016, it was a total system failure. Now, the series is not over yet, and it's not done, and there are still time left to recover. Hopefully, for the Wolves' sake, they got this out of their system. But, yeah, this was as disappointing as it gets given the circumstances. Game 1, ton of excitement. You're at home. Steph Curry's out. And you basically can't shoot straight. And the three-point shooting, Ant at the rim, just all of it, at least in the first half for Ant, was just awful.
Yeah, there's so many different things. I just spent the entire game just jotting down takes and notes. But the number one thing is this was, I know the Boston Celtics they just broke the Timberwolves record for most missed threes in a playoff game. We can't even have that. We can't even own for even like a week. We can't even own the championship for most missed threes in a playoff game. The Celtics came in and broke it. I don't know that you're going to find a more inept 6-quarter shooting performance than the 4 quarters against the Lakers in that closeout game, and then the first half. They didn't hit their first 3 until like halfway through the third quarter, and you had kind of a sarcastic cheer. You were in there, so you can tell me what the vibe was like. So I'm kind of torn here because on one hand, the Warriors, since the Jimmy Butler trade, have had the best defensive rating in the NBA. So since February 6th, the Warriors have had the best defense in the NBA. And in that last round, 7-game series, they held Houston to under 90 points twice. So you could say like, well, I mean, the Wolves had their worst offensive performance. They only had 88 points. It's not uncommon for the Warriors to do this defensively to teams. So that's one thing to respect. On the other hand, I don't think the Wolves can continue to stack these historically inept shooting performances. This is a great 3-point shooting team. The fact that they're in this team-wide slump is inexplicable. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has not shown up in the playoffs yet. Dante DiVincenzo has barely made a 3. He's made like a small handful of 3s in the entire playoffs. So I mean, I guess which force do you believe in? The Wolves reverting back to a great three-point shooting team, or the Warriors playing the best defense of any team in the NBA since the trade deadline? And by the way, Judd, with only 1 day off between games, between now and Game 6, there's like 3 or 4 days off. If Steph Curry doesn't get right with that hamstring, none of this might matter, because I don't.
Right.
I guess I know the Warriors are deep and they played like 11 dudes in their rotation tonight. But I think if he's out or far less than 100%, this loss still stings and it's terrible and it's one of the worst losses in a season filled with bad losses. But I don't see the Timberwolves losing in a 7-game series to a Steph Curry-less Warriors team. So I'm kind of split. This was a terrible game to digest for Wolves fans, but I'm kind of split in my reaction to it.
Well, it's game 1, and so like my experience, especially in 7-game series, is you've got to give it at least 2 games or 3 games. Like I'm not even close to burying the Wolves. Tonight was disappointing. It was a terrible performance, but it doesn't mean that the series is done. What it does mean, though, is that, I mean, this team, as far as its shooting goes, I mean, if you cannot make a 3-point shot, which the last 2 games they barely can, you're going to be in trouble. That being said, I almost felt from being here like, yes, Golden State defensively played well, but the Wolves also couldn't shoot straight. And I don't think that's going to continue. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm certainly not happy with what we saw tonight, but I also don't think, and I see comments, and I know fans are pissed off, and they were pissed off on Twitter, and they were ticked off here. And yeah, when Nas made the first 3-pointer of the game with 8:32 left in the third quarter, they did get a big Bronx cheer. All of that being said, though, it takes 1 game to turn that back around. And, you know, the reality, too, is this, Phil. The Timberwolves, everyone, when the Lakers series was set, everyone and their brother, aside from a few people, more so, you know, really basketball heads, said Lakers in 5 or 6. No question about it, right? And the Timberwolves are like, no, we're going to push back here. Like Chris Finch was playing clips of people nationally disrespecting his team. And this team thrives off of that. So the tables are turned here. Like now it was Steve Kerr who could play clips of a ton of people saying Wolves in 5 or 6 this time around. Like it is, this is a different thing when you are the hunted, when you are now the team, and the Warriors have a ton of pride. So I am very surprised by what we saw. That being said, I am also just as curious and looking forward to what we see on Thursday night from the Wolves. You go down 2-0 at home, it's a big problem. You bounce back and go to Golden State for Saturday's game at 1-1, you're in fine shape.
Yeah, it's by the way, I see some comments here. We're flying without a producer here tonight, and we're working through some mic volume issues. So I made a couple tweaks here. I am your producer pilot tonight here from a different country.
You sound good.
Okay, so
cans here. So
let us know. I know Judd was coming in kind of hot there. Just let us know in the comment section if it's at all close for the remainder of this podcast. So. Yeah, I mean, some other things that just felt off tonight. You can't get smoked on the boards like the Wolves did tonight. The Wolves got out-rebounded 51-41 in this game and gave up 18 offensive rebounds. I mean, Jimmy Butler was a monster on the offensive boards tonight for Golden State. So that's problematic. Cannot happen. And the other thing that, I don't know if it's like problematic, but it was an interesting twist here. The Warriors played 10 dudes in the first half. They had a 10-man rotation before halftime in this game. And in a postseason where Nikhil has not been a factor and DiVincenzo's offense has not arrived yet, I was kind of wondering, when is Finch going to pull another lever here, just get some more energy on the court? He did put Terrence Shannon Jr. in for a couple of minutes. No Jalen Clark. But it is, when you're talking about Draymond in his mid-30s and Jimmy's old, he played 41 minutes tonight. If Steph's out, they're gonna have to lean on a bunch of bodies. But it keeps guys fresh when you can just bring in. I mean, dude, Pat Spencer.
Dude, I love Pat Spencer.
Went on a run. I mean, he literally played 200 minutes all season.
Northwestern's own.
A random dude
from Northwestern, man. He's a Big Ten guy.
But this is, Steve Kerr can literally, I'll point to anyone on that bench, and you might come in and play 11 minutes in a big playoff game on the road. And Finch does not have that same trust in. I mean, that's one thing I was thinking is Steve Kerr is literally pointing at Pat Spencer, who is barely an NBA player, in a playoff game on the road and saying, give us 11 minutes of a spark. And Chris Finch is looking over at his bench, and there's like 4 dudes much better and more talented than Pat Spencer that he just does not play. Again, like the Wolves have done really well with the rotation that they have, and I think once they start hitting some 3-pointers, they're going to win the series. But very interesting contrast in the way Steve Kerr goes about his playoff rotation and Chris Finch by comparison.
Yeah, I looked at the box score in the second half, and it was incredible. Like, almost every reserve on the Golden State roster played. Yeah. I was a little bit troubled tonight that Jalen Clark couldn't get playing time. Like, I feel like, because I do think that this is going to go 6 or potentially 7 games. But I also feel like, we always talk about in playoffs, like if this is to go the way that we expect, so-and-so is going to have to play a role. And by the way, in the playoffs, it is very plausible that you don't play a role at all in one round and then you play a role in another round, right? I feel like Jalen Clark needs to play. I felt like, why not bring Shannon and Clark off the bench? Your team was sort of dead. I mean, this happens, but it looked like the Wolves were the team that played on Sunday and the Warriors were the team. But that can happen too. But I would like to see Clark play. If nothing else, I think he'd fit in. Like with what the Warriors do, I feel like Jalen Clark would be a good fit, and I would not be surprised if before the series is done, he does have a role.
Yeah, and I would like to see just what that looks like for a few minutes as well. But just to be crystal clear, the biggest reason why the Timberwolves lost this game is because A, they only made 5 3-pointers, and B, you could argue this is a credit to Golden State. They only took 29 3-pointers. Golden State did a great job running the Wolves off the 3-point line and just preventing them from even getting some shots up. I think there was also some times where the Wolves are like, all right, we're 0 for 15 after what we did in Game 5 against the Lakers.
Right.
Maybe we will hunt for some closer shots here.
They did in the second half.
And Anthony Edwards, the 14 rebounds, awesome. The energy, the defense that he was playing. But you can't just not score. You can't just not hit a basket in the first half against the Warriors in Game 1. He just doesn't show up until the third quarter offensively.
Let's talk about this, too. So this was a theme on Flagrant Howls, I felt like, in the second half of the season for sure, and it reared its ugly head tonight. And the 5 for 29 from 3-pointers is the headline, okay? But I think the subhead is Ant's night at the rim in the first half. Now he did start to make some in the second half. But, I mean, this has been an ongoing problem. It really shouldn't be. I mean, tonight I counted in the first half, I want to say 5 or 6 chances at the rim. And, yeah, he, again, he's calling for fouls. That's fine. But, I mean, this is going to be a physical series. If I'm not mistaken, the first quarter was pretty physical, and there were 0 free throws for both sides. So, you're going to have to fight through that. But I do think that it's that Ant's failure to capitalize at the rim tonight as well set a tone. At least if he capitalizes at the rim, the 3-pointers missed is still a big problem. But I think it's mitigated a little bit. But when you don't have both, I don't think you're going to win.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up because this was a major issue. The at the rim stuff against the Lakers, and it didn't really bite them because they won the series in 5 games against the Lakers. But again tonight at the rim, the Wolves missed 15 shots according to Cleaning the Glass. So we talk about the missed threes. So you combined to miss, what did they go, 5 for 25 from 3? Take away the heaves, or 5 for 29, right? 5 for 20. Yes. So they missed.
5 for 29.
They were 5 for 29 from 3. Mm-hmm. And then they wind up missing 15 of their 32 shots at the rim tonight. And you still are kind of inexplicably within striking distance halfway through the fourth quarter. So, again, caught between some really, really just ugly offense and the at the rim stuff is no longer a fluke. This team struggles. Anthony Edwards struggles relative to other superstars other guys who are sort of in the top 10 among NBA players, he's not great at converting at the rim. Maybe what he needs to do is just emphasize the contact more. He absorbs it so well, but still misses those shots at the rim, and then he complains to the official. But it's like, okay, I don't know, man. I don't want him to turn into a foul merchant like some of these other guys, but you got to do what you have to do in these playoff games to either convert at the rim or get to the free throw line. All right, we're going to bring our guy here, Kyle Theige, in to join the party in just a moment. Do you see him? Is he down courtside?
Kyle,
he's
hold
waving
on a
up
second.
at you right now. I can
Hold
see
on.
him in the
Oh yeah,
green.
yeah. He's in the press row where the established press gets to sit.
Oh, okay. So the esteemed journalist
press.
Kyle Theige is going to join.
Let's just say sports dad's upstairs.
Up in the cheap seats up there.
Yeah, it's fine. I actually enjoy it up here.
Were the Vikings offensive linemen sitting right behind you like they were in that Lakers series?
No, I think Aaron Jones was here. Josh Metellus was here, all courtside, though, of course.
Okay. Yeah, it was kind of a who's
But your
who
guy
of
Kilby, courtside.
Minnesota athletes. Yeah, Kilby in the house. Before we get to our guy, Kyle Theige, MyBookie is powering this Flagrant Howls post-game recap here, Judd.
Yeah, so this game stunk, right, folks? This game was terrible. So now you're walking away from this game saying, that was no fun. I wish that I had had some action on the game, and I'm going to tell you right now, our friends at MyBookie can provide that action, live odds, alt lines, and playoff props. Go to mybookie.ag, use the promo code Flagrant Howls, and bet the playoffs. So what you're going to do is you're going to actually have some fun, even if the Wolves stink. Deposit $50 to get an extra $25. Go bigger, $100, and MyBookie throws in $50. So next time, game 2, have some more fun, at least from your end of things, by going to mybookie.ag, promo code Flagrant Howls, and choose what you would like to do as far as betting the game. So if the Wolves lose, at least you had more fun.
You can hedge. Also, welcome Safeside Barbecue to Flagrant Howls for the postseason run here.
Yes, let's talk about the best barbecue food truck in the West Metro. That is my friends now at Safeside Barbecue. How does this sound, Phil Mackey? Fresh brisket, cut to order. Fresh. I mean, that's hard to find. 100% wood-fired smoking for juicy, savory, tender meat. No electronic smokers or ovens are used. Everything homemade. Bread is made to order for sandwiches. Have I got your attention? Find them at safesidebbq.com and on Facebook for where they are going to be. And by the way, if they are at a brewery, you can go, because they'll be out in a lot, you can go and order the brisket. You don't have to go in. Safeside is there. They are growing. They are very good. Safeside Barbecue. Check them out again at safesidebbq.com.
All right, let's go. Let's go to a different part of the arena here, where our guy Kyle Theige is digesting one of the ugliest offensive performances in the history of Timberwolves basketball. What was your main takeaway tonight, Kyle?
That I need my bookie to give me a line of credit, because I think I lost a lot of money on that one. That was, talking to people behind the scenes, like, that was the worst loss, right, in Timberwolves playoff history. Just all things considered, kind of coming into it. The two big takeaways from post game was, if you haven't heard Chris Finch yet, I don't know if you guys saw the tweets or mentioned about this, but he was pretty animated that he thought a lot of this was on Ant. He didn't like how Ant's energy. He didn't like Ant started the game, I think, 0 for 8. Yeah. But it was a lot of, you're the guy, like, you can't, kind of mentioned the word predetermined, that he kind of had a predetermined way that he was going to attack this. And once it, Phil, you had this too. He couldn't connect at the rim, wasn't hitting his shots. And then the other nugget from Steve Kerr was that they anticipate that Steph with that hamstring is probably going to be out for game 2.
Wow.
Hamstring injury, you never know, MRI tomorrow. But yeah, you couldn't have really scripted one worse than that. But you guys are talking about the offensive rebounds. Another night where they shoot terribly from 3. What was it? 17%. But in that game 5 against the Lakers, at least they got offensive rebounds. I think they had 18 offensive rebounds. They did the little things, right? Like the Warriors, that is about as much of a culture win as you can see. They did all the little things. Guys like Gary Payton, the second hitting threes. A lacrosse player came in. He looked just like me, and he played really good minutes, hit a little right skyhook. So
crazy.
It's kind of a soul-searching moment. There's some guys walking back behind the tunnel that were like, everyone chill, and then there were some guys that were, I think I heard Nas say that, like, they shouldn't even be that proud of that one, talking about the Warriors. So a lot of frustration, but that is just not how you come out after 6 days. Like, you had the advantage, you're at home, you haven't traveled in a week, and to kind of bleep the bed like that is super disappointing.
Couple things. Just I do have the Finch quote here, and we'll get to that in a second. But it's kind of amazing how, I don't know, we're not like in the middle of a Warriors dynasty anymore. I guess if they win another championship, then maybe you could say the dynasty extended. I don't think this team is good enough to win a championship, but it's funny how we've gone from 6 years ago. They were the super team of all super teams, right? They won a championship, and then they added Kevin Durant to it, and they were like this crazy star-heavy team. And now they've become kind of what the Miami Heat have been since the super team dissolved, where like the Heat just kind of put random dudes out there sometimes and just compete. They bring in undrafted guys, and you'll look and see, boy, the Miami Heat are in the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago with like 3 undrafted guys in their playoff rotation. That's what I felt like. It was a Warriors culture win, and the Wolves are still trying to figure out sort of what their culture is as they push forward. But I love this from Chris Finch. I'm curious what the sports dad thinks. I mean, Finch said, quote, on Anthony Edwards, "You are the leader of the team. You've got to come out and set the tone. If your shot's not going, you still have to carry the energy." Just straight up calling out Anthony Edwards after the game. I don't think this backfires because I think Anthony Edwards can take that criticism and then respond in game 2. I don't think this was like an emotional overreach by Finch. I feel like this is a strategic thing to light Anthony Edwards' fire going into game 2.
I absolutely I love this, and plus this is throwing Ant's approach back at Ant. Like Ant's the one who says I can confront my teammates like I do it different ways. And I think Ant is, as Finch knows, probably a guy who needs to be at times called out. Like, he's not a guy, I don't think that he's the touchy-feely, I'll give you a hug and it's going to be okay. I think Ant's the type of guy who you say, I need more. So I love this. It's no mistake. And again, if you were going to have this game, unfortunately, game 1's not a terrible game because it's behind you now. It's on to game 2. You're down by, you're down 1. Yes, you lose home court if that's important. But no, I love the psychology here because he's right about that. The energy in this building, Kyle, a tip-off, as you know, was fantastic. Like, this place was ready to erupt the first quarter. The Wolves led after, and then it was never the same. So Chris Finch is not a dumb guy. And I know that we got people in the comments calling for his job right now. Just buzz off. Would you just stop? Chris Finch is not a dumb guy. I like the thought process in calling Ant out because I think he'll respond.
Also, Charles Barkley calling out Anthony Edwards on TNT postgame. He said, "You said you wanted the smoke and you had 1 point at halftime."
Yeah.
There was and this is just calling a spade a spade. Judd was here too. Like, there were multiple times where Ant went to the paint and didn't get a call. And it wasn't like the old school complaining, but he was on the ground looking up. And I think the Warriors scored 3 different times in the game on like the Ants complaining. Now it's a 5-on-4. They get a bucket. I think it got down to 9 after Rudy hit the free throw. Ant lost Buddy Hield on a pin down where him and Jaden had a miscommunication. It's those little things, those attention to details that the Warriors know they're undermanned. They played 13 guys, but every little thing, right? Like, Jimmy Butler had 8 offensive rebounds tonight. Every little detail that they needed. You guys are my football guys, but it really felt like in the first quarter, the Warriors lost their quarterback, and they said, we're only going to throw 4 yards past the sticks, and we're going to run the ball, and we're not going to turn it over. And they did enough to kind of grind out that win, but that's a soul searcher, I think, for a lot of guys, because not only did they miss all those threes, you guys, but they also got the yips a little bit. Like, they started doing that thing again we saw earlier this season where they would turn down threes. And Chris Finch hates that. Like, they generated good looks. They just didn't hit him in the first half. But they're going to have to fix that because you just got to keep shooting them. I mean, I know some people are like, well, go to the rim, go to the rim. There's not a lot of rim protection. But if you get threes in those looks, especially Dante, especially like Jaden, you do need to take them. And I think they got a little hesitant there, especially in the second and third quarter. I mean, they scored 11 points in the second quarter.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I saw a bunch of that too during the game of like, you gotta stop. Just stop taking threes. If I see one more, no. You should be shooting open threes. That's how you win the math game. And quite frankly, with all the terrible things that we point to in this game, if instead of 5 for 29 from 3-point range, there's Jim Pete in the house.
Jim Pete.
If they go 8 for 29, they're right there. So what's Jim Pete's level
Jim's
of angst?
thoughts.
Jim's just trying to figure out what we're going to get to eat because it's been a long night. It's 11:45. We're doing a little live show tomorrow with the big guy, so we're excited about that. But I mean, again, they came out a little flat. They turned down good looks after that first half, and then they didn't pounce when they had the opportunity with the team that was kind of blood in the water. But they made all the right plays, the little things, attention to detail, and it ended up costing them game one.
Yeah. Joe, what else? I mean, I feel like I was expecting a little more chippiness, a little more animosity. We got like friendly Draymond Green breaking up a couple scuffles tonight. I feel like they're not quite settled into the chippiness yet.
Yeah, it's funny because I thought the first quarter was actually the chippiest one because the game was close. Yeah, Draymond is not did not come close. I did not think to melting down. I want to say there was a play in the second half in which Dante stood over like Butler after Butler fell and sort of just stood there and glared, and Draymond came in quickly and did the Draymond thing, but he backed right off. Yeah, it was just sort of it was weird, man. First of all, it was a sloppy game on both sides.
Yeah.
Like Golden State was not great. Nas is right. Like, this is not a win where Golden State should be like, did you see how well we played? It was a sloppy game. And the Timberwolves' level of intensity just was not there. And Golden State took advantage. I think one thing that is very important about what we saw tonight to point out is this. Because of Golden State's experience, when the Wolves' intensity waned, Golden State pounced. Like, they just pounced on that and took advantage, and it snowballed. Very hard to explain that part, though. Like, why your intensity would not be there in game one of a series at home against the Warriors is weird. And when Steph went out, it was like, oh, my God, you guys, this is a perfect chance. I think there were some sort of unexplainable things that took place tonight. But, in the case of Ant, if Ant is the guy, and he is, that needs to stay engaged. I mean, he's the captain. So, like, if his intensity wanes, you're in trouble. I think Finch is going to hopefully get the desired result on Thursday night by his words tonight.
The one thing I was thinking, Phil, during that, they lose Steph, right? And I think they kind of knew when he left. I mean, he went straight to the locker room. Jimmy and Draymond, like him or hate him, they were like, all right, like, we have to captain this ship. And on the other side, like, I was thinking leadership power rankings. When Ant wasn't getting it figured out and he was 0 for 8 and he got 1 point at half, it's like, all right, who else is going to right the ship? And Jaden tried. He was actually pretty calm. And Nas obviously had a little spurt there. But they have to find that guy because Mike's not going to be able to do it, right? Julius wasn't doing it. Rudy had a big fourth, but it was too late. So, again, kind of a soul searcher. Are you going to listen to your coach? Are you going to respond to a really bad performance again? To Judd's point, I mean, the fans were cheering after Ant hit a free throw. Like, they were very much here tonight. This wasn't like a low energy arena, but
Yeah.
if it's not falling for you, like, what else do you do? It in Game 5 against the Lakers, they found other ways to make an impact, and tonight they thought if we can't make shots, we're cooked, and that's why they lost.
Guys, do you think, because I don't, do you guys think, though, like this is a game that can impact an entire series potentially, and I get that, but do you think the Wolves, do you think it's going to have a lasting impact, like, into Thursday, or that they bounce back? Because I feel like all of the adversity that they fought throughout the season got them to a place where they did start to punch back and fight back. So I'm pretty confident, famous last words, of course, I'm pretty confident that game two, we're going to see a pretty strong bounce back. I don't expect them to shrink now because of a bad game.
Yeah.
I mean, this is probably like way too homer, but it's not really coming from that point. I mean, I still think they win the series. And I think this team, for whatever reason, just does not ever love or play well when they can kind of feel themselves. And this is about as much as getting punched in the face as can happen. So I think they come out in game two. And I think Steph or Steve Kerr is going to probably try to not punt it, right? But you saw him in game 5 against the Rockets be like, hey, we got what we wanted. Like, we're going to reset. So they now have home court. They do really well in the Bay, but they are missing their core of their offense. Like, they can't really score points. They'll manufacture things. They'll put different. I mean, I've never seen a team sub guys in more often, not just playing 13, but every other possession was a substitution. So they're doing 2 and 3 guys at a time. But yeah, I think Anthony Edwards, to Phil's point, does respond well to Chris Finch. I just don't think we're at a point yet. I mean, losing game one is one thing. Losing game one, if Steph is going to miss some time, makes the loss worse. But it's one loss, right? And the Warriors showed against the Rockets, you might have to go all 7 and really fight in some of those games to get the result you want. So bad start to the series, but I think those guys in that locker room find a way on Thursday.
Yeah, I think I echo what Kyle said. That I mean, if Curry's out, I mean it's a super tough break for the Warriors. If he's out even for a couple games, I think the Wolves still win the series. Not a great way to start. Someone in the comments though just pointed out, and I agree with this. It felt like, here it is from our guy Zach. It felt like Game 2 against the Lakers, where you're just grinding to you. I think they had 5 made threes in that game too, didn't they? I think they were like 5 for 25 in that game. They were 5 for 29 tonight, and yet you're still kind of within like 8 or 9 with 4 or 5 minutes left. Keep in mind the Warriors also did not get to 100 points tonight, and I would say as great as the Warriors' defense has been throughout the season, number 1 defense in the NBA since the Jimmy Butler trade. If they can't score 100 points, or if they struggle to score 100 points like the Lakers, they're not beating the Wolves in a 7-game series. So I think the Wolves likely respond back in Game 2. At some point, you're going to get a run of a 40 or 50% three-point make rate, and in that case, the Wolves probably win a game by 15 points. There's 2 months worth of playoff games. You're not winning them all. So I know that we get on these post-game recaps, and whenever the Wolves lose a playoff game, it's like half the people want Chris Finch fired, and you want everyone. This is a 2-month marathon grind. There's going to be some ugly performances. Tonight was one, but I'm not going to overreact to this. If they're down 0-2 going back to the Bay Area, all right, let's talk. Without Steph Curry, okay, now we got some problems here. But yeah, I'm not hovering over the panic button. Just any other observations or things that we haven't touched on, or things that you're looking at here between games 1 and 2 before we say goodnight, gentlemen?
I mean, how about the fact that the road teams in round 2 are 5-0?
Yeah.
I mean,
Dude,
this
pace,
was
the Cavs,
yeah.
oh my God, tonight. That was brutal.
This was one of the worst basketball games ever, but right before it, Cavs Pacers was not a good result for Cleveland, but it was another really fun game. Again, this is the second round, as you learned in that Denver series, right? Like we're 12 months away from a really good start 2-0 to all of a sudden you're down 3-2. These 7-game series are 7 for a reason, and it's kind of a gut check time. I think the best thing for Minnesota now is that there's not 2 or 3 days off in between games 1 and 2. Like they do film tomorrow, and then they show up again on Thursday for game 2. So I expect a bounce back performance, and it's going to be on Ant, like Chris Finch said, but tough one to swallow when you had all the cards in your favor and you just kind of laid an egg.
Yeah.
I would say this. I mean, it was a brutal game. Ant was bad, but Steph Curry might be lost for the series. Like hamstrings you don't like, it's not like a bad cut in your hand. It starts to heal quickly. I mean, hamstrings in sports, and, Steph, God bless him, he's a hell of a player. He's an old man now as far as basketball goes. So it's like if they had won tonight like this with Steph scored in with him 100-plus points, and the Timberwolves look like crap, I'd be like, okay, this is a bit of a problem. But, I mean, Draymond had a great first half. They were allowing him, as they should have, you guys, to shoot threes. He was knocking them down, to his credit. But is he going to continue to do that? And the reality is, I think if Steph Curry is lost, and I think there's a good chance he doesn't play again in this series or soon, that's that's asking a tremendous amount of a group of guys, some of whom are older, and it's asking a tremendous amount of guys who probably had really good games tonight that I don't know that they can repeat that. And to Kyle's point, they come back here in 2 nights and play, and then they play again in 2 nights. Like that's a lot. So can the Warriors bench continue to look also as good as it did tonight? I've got questions about that.
Yeah, I think I'll just throw this last nugget out about the shooting by the Wolves. So 12 for 76 from three-point range the last 2 games, including 0 for 15 in the first half tonight. And according to Tim Reynolds, noted NBA writer, that 0 for 15 performance is the worst of any playoff game in the NBA's play-by-play era, which began in 1997. No team has shot worse in a half of playoff basketball.
Don't worry. The Celtics will break that.
They will
Because the
0
Celtics
for
are like,
20.
screw this. We're going to take flyover country. We're going to best that.
0 for 20. So completely unrepeatable. There's other things like giving up all the offensive rebounds, getting out rebounded 51 to 41, some of the energy stuff that isn't necessarily results related, like the breaking of threes that you have to clean up too. But if you just clean up the shooting, you win the math game and you win the series. So start making some shots. I don't know what's going on over there, but pour some.
I heard Judd say about playing Jalen Clark. I don't know if that lever is ready to be pulled yet, but the one thing, if you're trying to be like, stop being so pie in the sky, I think Dante's 6 for 31 from 3 in the playoffs, and Nikhil is 5 for 23. So that's 11 for 56 or something. That's not how they shot in the regular season, and now that's a pretty large sample size. Though one of those guys has to give you something off the bench. You got a good Naz Reid game, I thought, but you're not going to be able to win this series or come back in the series with two of those 8 starters playing that poorly.
Yeah. All right, dudes. Kyle Theige from the arena. Judd Zolgad from the arena.
Bye, Kyle. See ya.
Bye, Judd.
Nice seats.
All right, you guys. Okay.
Have fun with Jim Pete tonight.
I know you guys are gonna.
Just looking on my text from Jim Pete and Kyle. Where we're gonna meet? I can't.
All right.
I can't seem to find that.
Judd, go be more social, and you'll get invited.
No, I'm going home to bed. I got to be up early.
All right.
No.
All right. That's a wrap here on this Flagrant Howls post-game recap. Wolves down 1-0. Super ugly performance. You guys can continue panicking in the comments section. Positive Phil will be here to help you out as needed. This therapy session is your favorite Timberwolves lifestyle podcast. Flagrant Howls. See you guys.